Scorpio, listen closely for a moment and do not brush this off as just another message playing in the background. Someone you trust is lying to you, and your spirit already knows it. A name, a face, or a feeling may have flickered across your mind the moment you read the title or clicked this video. That wasn't random. That was your intuition doing what it always does, quietly, faithfully, and often ignored. This is not about planting fear in your heart. This is about giving words to what your body, your dreams, and your instinct have been trying to tell you for weeks, months, or even longer. You have felt the shift. You have noticed the inconsistency. You have sensed that something is not adding up. And now the universe has brought you here, not to scare you, but to help you see with clarity what you were never supposed to tolerate in the dark. Deep down, you already know this is not a message for someone else. It is not abstract, it is personal. There is someone in your world who wears the mask of loyalty, of closeness, of understanding, but their words and actions no longer match the vibration of truth. They may not be a cartoon villain. They may not even think of themselves as dishonest, but they are hiding something, twisting something, or withholding something you deserve to know. It might be a secret plan, a conversation you were excluded from, a promise they never intended to keep, or a story that keeps changing every time you ask. The lie is not always loud. Sometimes it lives in what is conveniently left out. Sometimes it lives in the smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes, in the apology that never really lands, in the way the energy in the room changes when someone's name is spoken. Scorpio, your gift is perception. You read between the lines. You hear what isn't being said. You can feel when the emotional temperature shifts by a single degree. But because you are also deeply loyal, you often argue with your own intuition. You tell yourself you are overreacting. You make excuses for people. You soften red flags into pink because you want to believe the best in those you love. You say things like, they're just tired, or they're under a lot of stress, or I'm probably being too sensitive, yet your body tightens every time you're around them. Your nervous system doesn't lie, your soul doesn't lie. The quiet discomfort you feel is not drama, it is wisdom. The universe is asking you now, will you finally believe yourself? Or will you wait until the lie explodes into something you can no longer ignore? Because the person who is not being honest with you is closer than you want to imagine. They could be a family member who plays both sides, a friend who smiles to your face and feeds doubts behind your back, a colleague who mimics support while secretly undermining you, a romantic partner who wants your devotion but not your boundaries. Whoever they are, the common thread is this: you have given them access to your inner world, and they have not been fully transparent with the privilege of that access. This is not about paranoia, it is about alignment. You are in a season where your spirit is no longer allowing you to live in relationships that drain you, confuse you, or dim you. There have been signs. Think about the moments that didn't sit right with you, the conversations that felt slanted, the sudden changes in tone, timing, or attention. Perhaps they began to share less with you while asking more and more of you. Perhaps they started to avoid direct answers, offering vague phrases instead of clear communication. Perhaps you noticed how they behaved differently with you in private than they did around others, shaping their personality like clay depending on who is watching. Maybe they have become strangely interested in your plans, your feelings, your resources. But when you ask about theirs, the door quietly closes. These are not harmless quirks. These are energetic clues. And still, Scorpio, you blamed yourself. You wondered if you were insecure. You wondered if trauma from your past was coloring your perception of the present. You wondered if you were being unfair. That is the painful part about being as deep and self-aware as you are. You are willing to question yourself long before you question others. But this time, Spirit is asking you to reverse the pattern. Stop assuming that your clarity is wrong just because it is uncomfortable. Stop expecting your inner alarm to sound like a siren. Most of the time it arrives as a whisper, a knot in your stomach, a flicker in someone's eyes, a sentence that lands just a little too heavy or too light. You are not crazy, you are not dramatic, you are awake. The truth is this: some people love the light you carry but resent the strength that light gives you. They are drawn to your intensity, your insight, your capacity to hold space for others, yet they are also intimidated by it. Instead of rising to meet you with honesty, they shapeshift. They say what they think you want to hear. They agree when they disagree. They praise you in public and question you in private. They might even study you, learning your fears, your dreams, your language, and then use that information to keep you close while keeping you off balance. This is not always calculated evil. Often it is unhealed fear. But regardless of the motive, the impact on your spirit is the same. You feel unsafe without knowing exactly why. So what do you do when you sense someone you trust is lying to you? Your first reaction might be to confront them, to demand the truth, to expose the inconsistency. But right now, your power is not in chasing confessions. Your power is in anchoring in yourself. The more you return to your own center, the more obvious the misalignment becomes. You do not need to shout to see who is loyal. You just have to stop shrinking, stop overgiving, stop filling in the gaps they leave. When you stop covering for them energetically, their behavior will reveal itself. Lies cannot survive in the presence of sustained clarity. They either transform into truth or they fall apart. This message is not here to suggest that everyone around you is false. In fact, there are people in your life right now who would stand by you in the fire without flinching. People whose honesty might not always be perfectly delivered, but whose intentions are pure. The purpose of this revelation is not to make you suspicious of everyone. It is to help you become selective with the few who stand closest to your heart. You are not being asked to shut down. You are being asked to refine, to recognize that not everyone who smiles deserves your secrets. Not everyone who stays deserves a front row seat to your soul. The person who is lying to you may not even see themselves as a liar. In their story, they may feel justified, pressured, or trapped. They might be hiding a financial decision, a private conversation, a divided loyalty, an old resentment they never voiced. They might be trying to keep peace by keeping you in the dark. But Scorpio, false peace is not peace. Silence built on dishonesty is not harmony. You cannot build a stable future on half-truths. Your soul is allergic to counterfeit connections. That is why you feel restless. That is why your dreams have become more vivid. That is why you keep hearing the same message from different places. Pay attention. At some point soon, something small will happen that changes everything. A slip of the tongue, a message seen by accident, a detail that doesn't match what you were told, a story that falls apart when held up to light. When that moment comes, your mind may rush to blame yourself. How did I miss this? But remember this, you did not miss it. You sensed it long ago. You just did not yet have the proof your human self thought it needed. The universe is not exposing this to punish you. It is exposing this to free you. Free you from contracts signed in fog. Free you from energy exchanges that were never truly mutual. Free you from believing that you have to stay where your spirit keeps shrinking just to avoid being alone. When the truth comes out, it might sting. It might bring tears, shaking hands, racing thoughts. Your first instinct might be to either explode or shut down. But this is where your evolution shows. You are not the version of yourself you once were, slamming doors or swallowing everything in silence. You are allowed to take a sacred pause, to breathe, to step back from the conversation, the chat thread, the room, and anchor into your own body. Place your hand over your heart and remind yourself, I am allowed to protect my peace. This is not about winning an argument or forcing a confession. It is about recognizing what this moment is teaching you about your own standards, boundaries, and capacity to choose differently. You don't need a dramatic speech to take your power back. You don't need to expose them to the world, to build a case, to replay every moment in which they were less than honest. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply withdraw the level of access they once had. You can love someone and still decide they no longer get to stand that close to your softest parts. You can care and still say no more. You are not cruel for refusing to participate in a dynamic that has proven to be deceptive. You are not heartless for protecting yourself. You are honoring the truth inside you that says, I deserve to be surrounded by people whose words and energy match. Scorpio, this experience is not here just to hurt you. It is here to sharpen you, to teach you the difference between chemistry and compatibility, between charm and character, between empty reassurance and embodied truth. It is teaching you to trust the first feeling instead of waiting for the final disaster. It is closing the gap between when your intuition knows and when your mind finally accepts. That gap has cost you years of your life before. This time, it can be shorter. This time, you can move differently. You can decide that one lie is enough to make you listen more closely, that one breach is enough to make you draw the line. And as you do, something beautiful happens. The space that was once occupied by this half-honest connection begins to clear. You start to feel lighter. Your energy slowly untangles from the drama you never asked for. You notice that your breath goes deeper when you are alone than when you are with them, and you begin to realize that solitude with truth is softer than company built on deception. New people, opportunities and experiences begin to gravitate toward you, ones that don't require you to dim your perception or silence your instincts just to keep the peace. Your life starts to reflect the fact that you have chosen honesty as a non-negotiable standard, starting with the honesty you hold with yourself. If you're feeling this in your bones right now, let your words become a small ritual. In the comments or whispered into the room you're in, declare, I choose truth over comfort. I choose alignment over illusion. Let that sentence be less about them and more about you. Because this journey is not about catching liars. It is about becoming so anchored in your own truth that liars cannot stay. This entire message is in many ways a mirror held up to the deepest part of your soul, a reflection of a potential path your spirit is ready to recognize. Take what resonates and leave what does not. Not every story belongs to every Scorpio. Let it move through you like a wave of insight, not a cage of fear. Remember, this is not a legal verdict, not a fixed prophecy, not a command. It is a spiritual reflection, a thought experiment for the heart, a stream of symbolic language meant to awaken what already lives in your intuition. If this message feels like a confirmation, let it strengthen your boundaries and soften your self-blame. If it does not, let it pass like clouds across your inner sky, knowing that the universe will always find another way to reach you in the moments that truly matter. You remain the author of your choices, the steward of your relationships, the guardian of your own energy. Above all, Scorpio, never forget this. Your ability to love deeply is not a weakness. Your willingness to trust is not a flaw. What needs adjusting is not the size of your heart, but the precision of your gate. You are allowed to raise your standards without lowering your capacity for compassion. You are allowed to walk away from half-truths and still wish people well. You are allowed to start over as many times as it takes to build a life that feels honest in your bones. Someone you trust may be lying to you, yes, but that is not the headline of your story. The real story is this: you are awakening to your own power. You are remembering that no one gets to define your worth, rewrite your reality, or dim your vision without your consent. And if you are wondering what to do tonight, tomorrow, in the quiet hours when your mind replays everything, start small. Write down the patterns you now refuse to repeat. List the ways you abandoned yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. Then, beside each line, write one new promise to your future self. To speak sooner, to listen deeper, to choose slower, to leave faster, when your peace begins to bleed. These tiny vows become the invisible architecture of your next chapter. So take a breath, straighten your invisible crown, feel your spine lengthen as you sit or stand where you are. You are not broken because someone was not honest. You are not foolish because you chose to see the best in them. You are simply at a turning point where illusion can no longer travel with you. Let this be the moment you quietly decide, I will no longer argue with what my soul already knows. So take a breath, straighten your invisible crown, feel your spine lengthen as you sit or stand where you are. You are not broken because someone was not honest. You are not foolish because you chose to see the best in them. You are simply at a turning point where illusion can no longer travel with you. Let this be the moment you quietly decide, I will no longer argue with what my soul already knows. From here, every step you take can be rooted in deeper self-respect, clearer boundaries, and a kinder relationship with your own intuition. Pay attention, yes, but do it with calm authority, not panic. The truth, no matter how uncomfortable at first, is always an ally. And you, Scorpio, were born to walk with the truth even when others are afraid to speak it.